Hey, Shah Shabbat.
Shabbat Shalom. How you doing, Ak?
Pretty good, pretty good. So, as always, we're going to start by giving all praises, honor, and glory to the Most High God, whose name is Yahweh in the Paleo Hebrew tongue. And we do so in the name of his only begotten Son, our Messiah, Yahweh Shai, whom the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. So, I just want to say shalom to all the brothers and sisters. It shows there's a couple on here right now, and anybody else who's going to be watching it later. And Ashar Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom to anybody observing the Sabbath today. And if not, it says in Colossians, we're not going to judge you for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're still brothers and sisters if we're keeping the commands to the best of our ability, right? So actually, if since we're going to be talking about measuring the new year, right? Which measuring the new year will be the topic of this video. Like I was telling the brother Jomar, we're gonna measure or do measuring the new year this one, and then maybe next Sabbath we could do, or if we have time during the week, we can do breaking down each individual feast day after that. But you really need to know how to break down or how to measure the new year in order to measure all the other feast days or holy days, right? So let's go ahead. Salaki, let me pull up the verses.
Come.
If you want to bring up, since we mentioned it, Colossians 2 and 16 real quick, or Colossians 2, 16 and 17.
Come.
Just since we mentioned, it's like it says not to judge or let no man judge you in respect of a holy day or new moon, Sabbath, things of that nature, right? So we'll go ahead and go over that first.
Okay, so like, yeah, 1 second.
Go ahead, you're good.
Okay. This is Colossians chapter 2, verse 16. Let no man therefore judge you in meat or in drink or in respect of any holy day or of the new moon or of the Sabbath days, which are a shadow of things to come, but the body is of Christ.
So now some people take this. If you can give me Daniel 12 and 4 as well, Baba Kashaw.
Come.
So some people use this verse and say it doesn't matter what day you keep a holy day. It doesn't matter what you eat or drink. Doesn't matter when you keep the new moon. Doesn't matter when you keep the Sabbath. But that's not really what it's saying, right? What it's saying is, as it says here in verse 17, which are a shadow of things to come, right? But the body is of Hamashiach or of Yahushai. So we're all a part of his body, right? All the believers, the true believers that are trying to follow him in faith and works, in truth and sincerity. And we have to know and keep in mind that, especially the holy days, the new moons, the Sabbath, things like that. It's like I was telling the sister yesterday. Think about it this way, like Uak, for example. I'll bet you there was a lot of traditions or a lot of things that certain of your ancestors, whether it be great grandparents, great grandparents, maybe they knew how to cook certain meals, things like that, and that was lost over time, right? So it's the
Come.
same thing with us. Like nobody is keeping every holy day, every new moon, every Sabbath perfectly as they were back in the days, right? So it's saying that it's a shadow of the things to come. A shadow compared to your body, right? Because it says the body is of Hamashiach.
Come.
The shadow isn't the true essence of the body, right? It's not the true being. So it's just saying or alluding to the fact that none of us are keeping it correctly 100%, And when we're in the kingdom, we already know then we will be, right? But we still have to keep it to the best of our abilities. And as we get more knowledge and more insight and understanding on them, we do have to keep them to the best of our ability.
Con.
Nehemiah King, I don't know if you're keeping Shabbat, but a Shar Shabbat. Hope all is well with you and your household. So it didn't pop up in the comments, but if you want to go ahead and read it anyway, out.
This was Daniel. Here, Salakia. It didn't show up? Yeah, I got you. That's gonna be
Not on
Daniel.
mine.
Okay. Daniel 12 and 4. But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the end of the end. Salakia, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased.
Khan, and knowledge shall be increased. So in these end times, we know knowledge is being increased through the World Wide Web, through all various forms of technology and things of that nature. So as we get more knowledge, as knowledge is being increased, and we get knowledge of certain things, we're supposed to apply it and take that type of correction and keep moving in it, right?
So,
So if you want to go ahead and give me Psalm 119 and 104. So so this video is just a basic understanding of the new year, right? Basic understanding of the new year. And I'm not saying follow it exactly as I'm giving you. What we're doing is putting out this information, and then you then take the information, take the precepts we give you, the information we give you, and then you on your own study to show yourself approved as well, right? It's just like anybody who's ever given me any precepts, information like that. Me and I know this brother also is diligent to that, where we're going to take that information and look into it ourselves.
Colin, this is Psalms 119, verse 4. Thou hast commanded us to keep thy precepts diligently. Oh,
Salakia, it's
Salakia.
119 and 104, but it's all right.
Oh,
I'll go ahead and read it. I have it right here. It
Con.
says, Khan. Oh, yeah, you got it right there.
Through thy precepts I get understanding. Therefore I hate every false way.
So through the precepts we get understanding, right? So we're gonna go through some precepts. Should be kind of brief, to be honest, and get a better understanding of measuring the new year, right? So if you want to go ahead and give me um we can go jump to 104, Psalm 104:19.
Psalm 104:19. Con.
So I'm just gonna mention this, Khan. So real quick, I'm just gonna mention that one thing that I've noticed or that I've seen, and this is just the past like two years, because I've been in the truth a little more than 5 years, and I'm gonna be honest with y'all. What I used to do was my favorite camp or whoever I would talk to or affiliate with, associate with, um, personally have relationships with, I would tend to go off of their understanding and the way they would do the feast days and things of that nature. Right? I would just follow along without really looking into it. So now we're gonna go through the precepts, and we're gonna see that one of the things that I noticed was, especially this year or the past few years, is that many people don't think about the seasons when they're determining the new year or even the feast days, right? So go ahead.
Con. This is Psalms 104:19. He appointed the moon for seasons. The sun knoweth his going down.
So he appointed the moon for seasons, right? The sun knoweth is going down. So if you could give me Genesis 1 and 14 as well, and then we'll go ahead and make the first point.
Con.
Happy Sabbath, dog. Happy Sabbath.
Actually, here, let me see. Salakia, 1 second.
You're good.
Salakia. I'm gonna put up this precept real quick, and then I'm putting Genesis right underneath it.
Okay, Con.
Okay, let me see if you see
Okay,
it on
Con.
there.
Yeah, we'll get that one right after Genesis.
Con. This is Genesis
Con.
chapter 1, verse 14. And God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years."
So the Most High put lights in the firmament of heaven, obviously to divide the day and night, right? Seasons and for days and years. So we measure the seasons, the days, obviously, night and day, but the seasons and the years, we're supposed to be using the lights as well to tell when the seasons and the years are, right? So go ahead and read that precept as well.
Sister chapter 43, verse 7. From the moon is the sign of feasts, a light that decreaseth in her perfection.
Con. So as well, from the moon is the sign of feasts, right? And some brothers, and we're gonna do a part 2 of this video, like I said. Right now, we're just gonna go over marking the new year, okay? And then the second part, we'll do the new moon, which I'll tell y'all right now, and I've made videos on it in the past. The new moon, some keep it as the so-called dark moon, right? Then some people keep it as the full moon. They say the full moon is a new moon. And then some brothers, like myself, like House of David, like Church of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, etc., that keep the first light as the new moon. And just a basic description as to why is because there's, without even getting into the scriptures, like I said, the next video, I don't want to really go into it, argue, get into a discussion about it, because that's gonna take away from this video and take a lot of time. But we'll definitely get into it the next one. But basic description, without even getting into the scriptures, is this: some brothers keep it as the dark moon, but when it's dark, you have to understand. Right now, you can get on Google and you can look and say, okay, it's 0.03% the moon shining, but you go outside and you can't see it at all, right? And then the day before, it'll say 0%. So sometimes it looks like 2 days in a row it's dark, and the Most High is not the author of confusion, right? So some brothers keep it on the first day that they know it's dark, and then some brothers keep it the second day where it still looks dark. But if you look online, it's actually not dark, right? But you have to understand, like back in the days, they didn't have the internet, and now, let's say you have to be as a pilgrim on the earth. Let's say they cut off the internet. Which day are you gonna go off of? You know what I'm saying? So that does bring a certain level of confusion. And when you really think about it, the first light of that moon, right, makes sense to be the first moon. It's the first light. And then it increases and then decreases in perfection, like it says in the verse that the brother brought out and the verse right after it. But but I'll digress on that. The next video will definitely go into that. So going back to the point, uh Shalom, Melanated King, and Shalom, Ashar Shabbat, Martin and Kayla Anderton. So it says, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years. Right. So I was telling the brother Jomar before I got on here, we had just moved not too long ago, and I found a telescope that I had, and the uh the eyepieces for them. And I was looking forward to going out later tonight and looking at them. So the first thing to go along with this is there's certain constellations in the sky that only appear in certain seasons, right? And I was looking into some of them earlier, and of course they have different. They name them after what are they called? Zodiac signs now,
Con.
right? Which is wicked, of course. But like there's, I believe in the fall it's like Aquarius and Aries, and there's a few other ones, right? And but the point is, these constellations, these lights, only come out in certain seasons, right? There's a Mayan depiction or a big old drawing that me and another brother used to go, and we used to go and preach in front of, and they had different constellations and stuff, and they had the Mayans looking up at them and things of that nature, right? And when you think about it, like the Mayan, we've gone into that before. The Mayan calendar is so accurate, even in comparison to our modern day calendar, right? And that's why, if you could pull out, what is it, First Chronicles 12 and 32,
Con.
where it says Issachar had understanding of the times, and the way that they would
Mhm.
know that is by looking at the stars. That's why when you go to Second Ezra's, the 13th chapter, right? You go into Second Ezra's, the 13th chapter. It's for like 40 through 45, I believe, and it says how the Northern Kingdom came to Azareth. They saw signs in the sky, right? The Most High gave them signs in the sky, talking about through the stars, right? He was giving them signs.
This is First Chronicles chapter 12, verse 32. And of the children of Issachar, which were men that had understanding of the times to know what Israel ought to do. The heads of them were 200, and all their brethren were at their commandment.
Khan. So it said that Israel, or that the children of Issachar were men that had understanding of the times, right? And that was one of the tribes that went to Azareth. When you read um the the Apocrypha in Second Ezra's 13th chapter, and you read about the northern kingdom coming over to Azareth, right? So let's go back to let me see. If you want to read that one more time, Mark, then we'll keep going.
Genesis 1 and 14. And God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs, and for seasons, and for days, and for years.
So, like I previously stated, lights are for different seasons, and in the different seasons, you see different constellations in different seasons. But then also, of course, the sun and the moon, and like somebody just brought out the equinox, right? So if you could give me the definition of the equinox, Baba Kashal.
Con.
So the equinox, right? Someone said the seventh month begins spring equinox, the seventh month of the Hebrew calendar. So we're gonna go over a few precepts right now that actually disprove that, right?
Equinox is the time or date twice a year at which the sun crosses the celestial equator, when day and night are up of approximately equal length.
Okay, con. Okay, so Dathan McKnight put fall equinox. Okay, con. So the equinox, basically, for those of you who don't know, just means when day and night are approximately of equal length, like it says right there. Okay, so when back in the days, obviously they didn't have the internet and they couldn't be like, okay, Google, when is the equinox, right? But if you wanted to do it yourself, even say if the internet got cut off, you could just get a timer. You wake up at sunrise, time from sunrise to sundown, and then time from sundown till sunrise. And whenever it was equal, that would be when the equinox was, right? It just means it's an equal amount of day and of nighttime, right? So if you really wanted to do it without having to look it up and things like that, that's the way that you could do it. You there, Ak?
Uh,
Okay, your screen froze up on my end. So the brother put Enoch 71. Okay, so I personally don't ascribe to the book of Enoch whatsoever. Just to give you a heads up. So we're not going to go into the book of Enoch. We're just going to use 1611 King James version with the Apocrypha to prove everything that we're saying. And I did a less. Well, you know what? It was on my old YouTube. Um, I'll have to do another lesson on the Book of Enoch whenever I have time. To be honest, it's not that important to me to do that. But if enough people want or ask for that, I could go into breaking the whole Enoch thing down, right? Um, but anyway, so when you have the equinox, that tells you, like it says here, around September and then around March. After the equinox, which if you look up, can you look up when the equinox was this year, Ak? I believe it was on March 20th. The water.
uh,
I believe it the
in
spring
the southern
equinox.
hemisphere, the vernal equinox falls about March 20 or 21.
Con. So March 21st is where most people okay, Dathan, if you could Baba Kashaw uh stop posting from like Jubilees, like I said, Jubilees, Enoch, okay, Martin and Kayla Anderson, Enoch contradicts scripture. Con. I believe the exact same thing. And a long time ago, it was years ago that I figured that out, and I did a couple short videos on it because you really don't have to do much to show how it contradicts the scripture, right? But I'm gonna keep going. So all right, I'm gonna put you in timeout for a couple minutes, Hawk. So Nehemiah said, "Con, the 1611 is all we need." Con, I believe the same thing, right? I believe the exact same thing. So we're gonna go ahead and go back to let's see, what were we on? Well, Genesis 1 and 14 was the last one we brought out. All right, so
Yeah.
Genesis 1 and 14, like I said, it says the lights are for different seasons, right? We see different constellations in different seasons, and then the equinox as well, like the brother just said, was on the 20th or the 21st. So if you go off of most people's understanding when we're talking about like the main camps, if you're going off of their understanding, I have a brother had posted their calendar. Let me see. If you want to pull up Genesis 8:22 while I get this real quick, Baba Kashaw.
Um,
So it's March. Actually, I'm gonna type it in the comments just so we can have it up and I can keep going back to it. Let's see.
This is Genesis chapter 8, verse 22. While the earth remaineth, seedtime and harvest, and cold and heat, and summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease.
So it says, while the earth remaineth, seed time and harvest, right? The seed is when you do the planting, the harvest is when you're harvesting it, the cold and the heat, and summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease. So what is it talking about? It's talking about the seasons, right? It's talking about the seasons. So if you could also get me the definition of season,
Um,
Baba Kashaw, just to make it, want to make it as simple as possible so anybody could understand. I've gone over this with my daughters who are 12 and 11, and they could understand this as well, right? So March 12th, I'm gonna write it in here just so y'all could see it. We could reference it. March 12th, 2021 is when most, the most popular camps kept their new moon. Okay. When, like the brother said right here, the spring equinox, which tells you when spring starts, right? So March, I believe said March 21st was when spring started. Okay.
mhm.
And you can look this up, go to your favorite camp's website or anything like that. Their new year started March 12th. Okay, which is still in the season of winter according to the equinox, according to the sun, the moon, and the stars. Okay, so remember, and this is the verse that we got to keep in mind, Genesis 1:14. It says that the lights are for seasons and for years, right? For days, for years, for seasons. So when people are kept it as March 12th, the new year, like I said, that was in the wrong season already. Okay. So go ahead and read that out.
Season. Each of the four divisions of the year, spring, summer, autumn, and winter, marked by particular weather patterns and daylight hours, resulting from the Earth's changing position with regard to the sun.
Calm. So it's whether you believe, we're not even going to get into that, right? Whether you believe in flat Earth, whether you so-called flat Earth, whether you believe in a globe, whatever, we can all agree on there are seasons, right? And this is judged by not just the weather, but by daylight hours and night hours as well, which is talking about what? It's talking about the lights, like it said in Genesis, right? Shalom, Ashar Shabbat sis. So they used the end of months, not the beginning of months. I'm not sure if you want to elaborate on that, on what exactly what you mean by that. I think I know what you're saying, but if you want to elaborate on that. So when it comes to, again, the seasons, it was already starting off the wrong season. So now the problem with that, and actually Nehemiah, I believe I've talked to you about this before, right? How do we know Saturday is Sabbath? Can we track months or years before we track days? All right, so that's for a whole totally different lesson. That's gonna take another hour or two just to get into that, right? Maybe we could do another lesson on that after we do this. But right now we're measuring the new year, right? We're gonna do things decently and in order. The last couple lives we've kind of veered off track a few times, and it took twice or three times as long talking about weed and wine and all types of things. This one we're gonna stay stuck on measuring the new year, right? So Genesis, what was it, 8 and 22? 8 and 22. It's talking about seasons. Genesis chapter 1 and verse 14. It's talking again, the seasons by what? By the lights, by the moon, the sun, the stars, right? When you go into the definition of season, I can't remember which website it was on. I think it was the Zondervan of season, or maybe it was I honestly don't remember. But when it was talking about seasons, it said it was judged by weather, the equinox, and ecology, right? So it's not just one thing. There's different things you have to keep in mind, right? You have to keep in mind. So the brother said, meaning the new moon before the spring equinox is the end of months. Okay, Khan. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, right? And the reason why, and that's what I was gonna get to, the reason why they get thrown off is because they don't take into account what in the Hebrew is we call a double adar, right? Or how they call it in Esau's system, they call it a leap year, right? A double adar is basically just like you have a 13th moon every so often that comes into place. And you can tell this by like the brother is alluding to there, right? You can tell this by the season. Okay. So if so yeah, like the brother just said, when the new moon does not fall in spring season, it's a double adar. That's how you'll know, right? And for those of you who've been in the truth for a while, this is what really got me thinking about this about last year. Because like I said, I've been in the truth about 5 years or a little longer. And if y'all remember, if y'all been in the truth maybe 2, maybe 3 years or more, everybody used to be keeping the new year, the so-called new year, right, in April. Like I remember I would be following, not following, but I mean, the majority of the videos I would watch were like Priest Zabak, House of Israel. Even when I first came in the truth, even like IUIC videos and stuff like that, and everybody was keeping it in April a few years back,
Hmm.
right? And if you go into like this year, like I said, their new moon is March 12th. If you could do me a favor, Ark, if you could I know it might take you a minute, but if you could look up the moon calendar and just go 12 moon cycles from March 12th.
From this year?
From March 12th, 2021, and then go 12 moon cycles and tell me what day it falls on. Because I know
Repeat that
it
one.
gets earlier and earlier.
March 12th.
Okay, if you can go to March 12th,
Con.
2021,
Yep.
and then go 12 moon cycles from there. I believe that's the dark moon.
Okay.
So if you can go 12 moon cycles from then and tell me what day it falls on. I would pull it up
Uh,
on my screen, but I already know it's gonna cut my internet connection.
on March 24th.
From March 12th, 2021, and then from that day, I believe it's the dark moon or what they call the new moon, and then go 12 moon cycles from there. I'll try and pull it up on my phone as well. If anybody ever has ever messed with the a moon cycle calendar, if any of y'all got it,
By moon cycle, you mean a day, right?
A month.
Oh, count. Okay. So the
So if you
12,
go
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. For next year, February falls on the February 12th.
okay, what's the one after that?
February 12th, 2022. March 12th.
Would it be March? Okay, so I'm pulling it up right here. So it says, let me see, March 2022. It's actually March 2nd.
Oh, I see it. 10:35 a.m.
So next year in 2022, because like I said, you can go on whether it be House of Israel or Sakari or GMS or whoever, and the majority of them all kept the new moon this year, March 12th, right? Now, next year, their new moon is going to fall on March 2nd, okay? March 2nd. And all you have to do just Salakiak, I kind of made it hard for you and said go and count the each month. If you just
Yeah.
put um March March 2022 new moon and it says new moon March 2nd. Okay, so if you don't count the double adar or the leap year, it's gonna keep going back. Next year,
Mhm.
this year was on March 12th. Last year was like the 20, I believe it was the 22nd. This year, like I said, March 12th. Next year would be March 2nd. And then if you keep going all the way to 2023, it would be in February. Okay. It would be in February.
Eventually, you'll be
So we
keeping.
all
Uh,
know, Salaki, go ahead.
eventually, you'll be keeping Passover in the fall.
Khan. You'll be keeping Passover in the same time that we know that it's not. You're gonna be keeping it around New Year's, the heathens' New
Mm-hmm.
Year's, right? Late December, in a few years, in 5 to 10 years, if you don't account for the double Adar, right? So that's one thing that definitely stuck out to me, and it's crazy because you can obviously see it if you just keep counting and keep counting, and you see the last few years, it's receding. It was in April, like about 4 or 5 years ago when I was barely coming in the truth, and then it just keeps going and keeps going and keeps going, right? So that's just something to note for any brothers and sisters that have been in the truth for a few years, and y'all can remember when a few years back it used to be in April, right? And that's the thing that many don't take into account. It's that before the spring equinox, right? Every few years, there's an extra moon, also known as a double Adar, Adar being the last month. And like I said, Esau's system calls it a leap year, right? So if you want to get, let me see, Leviticus 23, 1 and 2. Actually, 1 through 4, Baba Kashag.
Okay, Khan. This is Leviticus chapter 23, verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, concerning the feast of the Lord, which ye shall proclaim to be holy convocations, even these are my feasts.
So when you go into Leviticus 23, it talks about the feast days or the holy days, right? So the first one, of course, that it's going to mention is the Sabbath, right? In verse 23.
Verse 3, 6 days shall work be done, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of rest and holy convocation. Ye shall do no work therein. It is the Sabbath of the Lord in all your dwellings.
So it's the Sabbath. So let's get to the point I wanted to make. Go ahead.
These are the feasts of the Lord, even holy convocations, which ye shall proclaim in their seasons.
So again, it's saying in their seasons, these are the feasts and holy convocations. Like I said, Leviticus 23. If you haven't read Leviticus 23, that's where you can read about the feast days. But it says, which ye shall proclaim in their seasons. Right? So it's very important to remember it's supposed to be in their seasons. If you give me Deuteronomy 16 and 1.
Come.
Deuteronomy 16 and 1. Right? And we're going to talk about Abib. Hopefully y'all are familiar with Abib, right? Abib being the first month and basically the spring, the beginning of the year. Some people call it the green ear because that's when like the ear of corn. Some people go just off of that as well. Like I know there was some brothers in I can't remember if it was Nigeria. It was one of the parts of Africa, and they would just go off of the green ear. Whenever the corn was ready, they would say that is that's the new year, right? Go ahead.
Come. This is Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 1. Observe the month of Abib, and keep the Passover unto the Lord thy God. For in the month of Abib, the Lord thy God brought thee forth out of Egypt by night.
So the month of Abib, right? And when they came out of Egypt, that was the month. Salaki, I was seeing this comment. Does Leviticus? Okay, we're not dealing with the Sabbath today. Okay, we can deal with the Sabbath another day. Flux aim. Right now we're doing measuring the new year. Okay, we're not gonna like I said before, we're not gonna get taken off topic to something else like we've been in the last few studies. But anyway, so the month of Abib is the first month. Okay, and the first month has to be like it says here, which ye shall proclaim in their seasons. So even just using good old common sense, we know that the season where new life springs forth is in the spring, right? And that's why it said in Genesis 1:14, right here, the lights, right? The lights, let there be lights in the firmament, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years. So we use these lights, which, like I said before, there's some brothers that use the green ear when things are growing in the spring. That's one thing. If you also think about it, animals start migrating in in the spring because it's no longer winter, right? Then we also have the constellations, like we said. Some of there's certain constellations that only come out in the springtime. that only out you can only see them in the wintertime. That's another thing. Then you also have the equinox, right, which marks when spring starts. And then also, just springtime in general, which we know Abib, in certain transliterations, they can get April from, right? Abib in April. Shabbat Shalom to Laya Mejorado and your head. Shalom to y'all's house. And Shalom Nakama. I believe that's the way you pronounce it. Right? So let me see. We're gonna go down to, actually, if you could pull up Genesis 1 and 16 as well.
Con.
Genesis 1 and 16. So again, like we said, the equinox is very important to look at, which if you look at it this year, again, anybody can easily look up this information. The equinox normally falls around March 20th, which it was this year. And the majority of people kept their new year March the 12th, which was already in the wrong season.
This is Genesis chapter 1, verse 16. And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also.
Khan. If you could get Deuteronomy 17 and 3 as well. Baruch. So
Con.
the Most High made these lights, as we already went over, for seasons, for days, for years, but and he made the stars also. So we take all of these things into account when judging the new year, right? You can't just say, okay, well, the month ended, or the new moon, we have a new moon and it's the 12th, and on the 20th or the 21st, spring starts, so we're close enough. It's only 9 days off, so we're gonna keep it now, right? That would be the wrong season. So we have to take all these things into account. The two lights, the sun and the moon, which the equinox comes into play, and then the stars also.
Con. This is Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse 3. And hath gone and served other gods, and worshipped them, either the sun or moon, or any of the host of heaven, which I have not commanded.
So now we're not worshiping, or like I was saying earlier, how I want to go out later and look in my telescope at the different constellations. Some of them are named Aries and Pisces and all of those wicked zodiac signs and stuff like that. Just because we're looking at the stars, that doesn't mean that we're worshiping them, bowing down to them, serving them, or anything like that. It's just a way that our ancestors, especially how we read the tribe of Issachar, would see the times, right? And note the times, right? Let me see. You want to go ahead and read that precept? That's a good precept, Bach.
Con.
What is it? Psalm 19, 1 and 2?
Yeah. This is Psalm chapter 19, verse 1 and 2. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament sheweth his handiwork. Day unto day uttereth speech, and night unto night showeth knowledge. Let me post that up.
Khan. So the night showeth knowledge, right? The stars, looking at the star. Like, think about it back in the days. I was thinking about it the other day when I was outside, and where I'm at, you could see the stars way better than where we were previously at. And like, think about it back in the days, they didn't have no internet, they didn't have no TV, no Netflix, no social media, none of that, right? And they would spend time, hours, just looking at the stars. right? And seeing how they move and mapping them out. And like I said before previously, Issachar was one of the tribes that had the best knowledge of those things. And the night showeth knowledge. That's a good precept.
This is I pulled this up. This is astronomy versus astrology. So astronomy is a science that studies everything outside of the Earth's atmosphere, such as planets, stars, asteroids, galaxies, and the properties and relationships of those celestial bodies. Where astrology, on the other hand, is the belief that the positioning of the stars and planets affect the way events occur on Earth. So astrology also deals with zodiac signs and things of that nature.
Calm. So I don't know which category it would fall under, but just seeing the different types of constellations, and we know back in our ancestors' days in biblical like Torah days or around those times, they weren't calling them Pisces and Aries and all of these things. Right? That's just a way for heathens to push the worship of their false idols on us. So now you may call them whatever they call them nowadays, but that doesn't mean you're worshiping those different things, right? You're just using them, or we're just using them in order to map out or to calculate specifically what we're talking about right now, the new year, right? So if you could give me Exodus 9, 31, and 32. Exodus 9, 31, and 32. Just so I can make a point real quick, and then we'll get back to the whole Abib and how it's the beginning of the year. Right, because like I
Exodus
mentioned before, there's some brothers. So
31 and
like
30.
9, 31, and 32.
Okay.
Con. So yeah, like I was saying, there's some brothers that have told me um and teach that really the only thing that you need is, they'll call it the green ear, or like the corn is growing, which means the spring, and then the next new moon after that is the new year, right? But we have to understand and not be ignorant of Satan's devices, so to speak, that Esau and their so-called scientists and their system have figured out ways in certain areas to, or not even in certain areas, in pretty much anywhere, to grow different foods all year round, right? Like I don't know about you in Arizona, Ak, but like down here in South Texas, you can pretty much grow all year round.
Yeah, it's not like that over here, but I mean it's desert, so there's a pretty hard
Con,
freeze
that's true.
sometimes. But I know from visiting you where you're at, it's a lot more. There's a lot more moisture and water, and it's a lot more tropical than it is over here. So there's more chance for things to grow. Whereas over here, it's a little bit different. But there's still a lot of plant life, I guess you could call it, that and things you can bring to fruit. But you just have to really have a green thumb, I guess you could call it.
Con, con. Yeah, that makes sense because I mean y'all are in desert, so down here, like when you were here, I think it was like 90 or 90 some percent humidity, and then we have the Gulf of Mexico real close as well, and then there's resacas everywhere for that we could pull water from, things like that, right? But
Con.
the point that I was gonna say is that, like I said, some brothers go from they just go off of what's growing. It's growing and it's around the springtime season, so then they go off the next moon, the next new moon being the springtime, right? But like we're reading here, it's more than just that what's growing. We have to go off of the equinox, the stars, the constellations, the moon, the sun, etc.
This is
So
Exodus
go ahead.
chapter 9, verse 31. And the flax and the barley was smitten, for the barley was in the ear, and the flax was bald. But the wheat and the rye were not smitten, for they were not grown up.
Okay, so it says the flax and the barley was smitten, meaning they had already cut it. For the barley was in the ear, right? It was already grown, and the flax was boiled, meaning they were cooking it. But the wheat and the rye were not smitten, for they were not grown up. So it's just saying that like the flax and the barley was already cut, right? Because the barley was already in the ear, was already ready. The flax was already being boiled, was already being eaten, but the wheat and the rye were not smitten. They were not cut down yet because it wasn't ready yet, right? For they were not grown up. So I'm just pulling that out. If you get Exodus, let me see. I think it's 12, 12 and 2. 12 and 2. So this is Exodus, the ninth chapter that we're reading right now, right? So this is chapter 9. We're going to go to chapter 12, which was a little bit after it, right? And this is just showing in chapter 9 how if the flax and the barley was already ready, but the wheat and the rye were not ready yet, right? You can't just go off of what's growing, right? Especially when you look into winter wheat, it grows at a different pace or at a different timing than other plants or vegetables as well. Let me see. Is the sign of feast an illuminated moon or a dark moon? So we went over that. What I go off of, my understanding, and multiple brothers that I've congregated with and gone over scriptures with and things of that nature, it is the crescent, or they call it the crescent, the first light. Okay, which we're gonna go over in the second. This is gonna be, we're gonna do a part two for sure, right? Green ear is nowhere in Genesis. Con, for sure. It says the lights, right? Going off the lights, and that's why I'm saying, um, you can't. They're adding into that, right? But I can still see why I understand why they're going off that understanding. But like you said, they're really just adding their own understanding to it. Like it's another good thing to take into account, but at the same time, we have to go off the scriptures first and foremost. And like I said, you can grow in any season basically now, right? Go ahead.
This is Exodus chapter 12, verse 2. This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you.
Con. So it shall be the first month, and it's talking about the month of Abib. If you go to let me see, Exodus 13 and 4, it says it's real short, but I'll let you pull it up.
Come, I got it up there.
Okay. Con, go ahead.
Exodus 13 and 4 says, This day came ye out in the month Abib.
So in the month of Abib, or the first month. As a matter of fact, if you can get the definition of that as well, Baba Kashaw, of Abib.
Come.
And if you could try, I don't know if it'll come out, but if you can try and look up the Zondervan, the Bible dictionary, the Zondervan Bible dictionary for Abib, right? And I believe it says March or April or springtime, something to that effect.
Here, let me see. I got it up. It says the first month of the Jewish ecclesiastical year, also Nisan. It begins at the spring equinox and answers to the latter part of March and beginning of April. Its name is derived from the full growth of wheat in Egypt, which took place anciently as it does now at that season.
So when it's talking about the month of Abib, it said March or April, but notice it said about the wheat, right? So again, that's why some brothers do use that, whether it be wheat, corn, whatever they try to use it because of that specific meaning, because of that specific definition and that like etymology of the word. But at the same time, like I said before, we have to account for the season by the lights and by the stars and things of that nature, right? So let's go ahead and hold on. Let's see. 1 second. Okay, a brother just sent this to me actually. So yeah, it says it's the camp dates. I'm just gonna post them up real quick just so y'all could look at them yourself, and you could look this up yourself, right? He put the name of the camp, but I'm not gonna put their name, but I'm gonna go ahead and put it up for y'all to look at. This is one of the most well-known camps. I'll just say that. These are the dates of their New Year's. Okay, the next 3 New Years. And if you don't believe me, if you don't believe him, I mean, you can go ahead and like everything I'm telling you, look it up. Go ahead and look it up yourself, right? February 19th. Wow. So if you go all the way to 2023, the new year for probably like the most, in my opinion, the most popular, one of the most popular, if not the most popular camps right now, would be February 19th, 2023, without using the double Adar, without using the so-called leap year, right? So March 2nd, I mean, if you really think about it, March 2nd would be the new year, and then you count the 14 days um till the Passover. So that would be the 16th for Passover. That the Passover would still be in the winter, right? Because we saw the equinox falls around the 20th. So I could see how you might try and like push it and say that you could still do that. Oh well, it's close. It's real close to the spring. But once you're going into February, you know what I mean? In 2 more years, it's gonna be
Yeah.
like, wait a minute, hold up. Our New Year's February 19th, and then 2 more years, it'll probably be in at the end of January, and then it's definitely gonna be like, all right, something's wrong. You know what I'm saying? And that's why it's so important. If you can get Leviticus, what is it? 9, I think it's 9:1. Here's my Bible. I was reading Leviticus 9. If you read Leviticus 9, the Most High talks about seasons more than a handful of times in that chapter, I believe. Let me see. What's the lock? Actually, if you can get Leviticus 23 and 4 as well. Let's
Con.
see. But you know what? That's another point that we definitely got to go over. Leviticus 23, 4, all the way let me see, all the way through 12, if you could, Baba Kashad.
Come.
So after, oh, we'll go ahead and get it. We'll read it first before I ask. So we know that you have the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread, right? But then after that, you're supposed to bring a sheaf of first fruits of your harvest. The priests would do like a sheaf waving, right? Which we don't do that anymore. So most people skip over that, or they don't even look into that or read into it. But it's also very important to keep in mind when you're measuring the new year, because it would have been impossible for them to do this if they were keeping it in the wrong season. And I'll explain exactly what I mean after we read a few of these verses, right? So let's say, for example, let's go off of this 2023. If you kept the new year February 19th, 2023, right? Which is, this is, like I said, this is the majority of the bigger camps. These are the days that they're keeping them. They kept it March 12th, which means 14 days from then would have been the 26th, would have been Passover, right? Next year, 14 days after the second would have been March 16th, Passover next year. That's still in the winter because the equinox isn't until the 20th or 21st. Then going one more year, February 19th, you add 14 days. That would be what, March 3rd, I believe, March 4th, around there. That's still in winter, right? You still have another almost 20 days. So why is this so important? Let's go ahead and read Leviticus 23 real quick to point out why.
Leviticus 23, verse 4. These are the feasts of the Lord, even holy convocations, which ye shall proclaim in their seasons.
Again, that you shall proclaim in your seasons. Go ahead.
Verse 5. In the 14th day of the first month at even is the Lord's Passover.
Okay, so then you have the Passover.
And on the 15th day of the same month is the feast of unleavened bread unto the Lord. 7 days ye must eat unleavened bread.
So then you have the 7 days, which we're just gonna go off of this last one, right? Just to prove the point. So February 14th, February 19th, and then you have, say, another 14 days. That would already be the 4th or 5th of March. Let's just say the 5th. Okay. I'm not sure if that's what they call a leap year and they have the extra day. So let's say the 5th. Then you have 7 days. That would be what? The 12th. Okay. So the Feast of Unleavened Bread would be ending on the 12th. Okay. Let's keep going.
In the first day ye shall have an holy convocation. You shall do no servile work therein.
Holy convocation, holy gathering, reading, things of that nature. You're studying and no work. Go ahead.
Ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord 7 days. In the seventh day is an holy convocation. Ye shall do no servile work therein.
Then back then they would do the sacrifices every day, the offerings.
Verse 9. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When ye be come into the land which I give unto you, and shall reap the harvest thereof, then ye shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest unto the priest.
Go ahead.
And he shall wave the sheaf before the Lord to be accepted you On the morrow after the Sabbath, the priest shall wave it. And
Okay,
ye
one
shall
more.
offer
Go ahead.
that, and ye shall offer that day when ye wave the sheaf and he lamb without blemish of the first year for a burnt offering unto the Lord.
Okay, so it says right after the Feast of Unleavened Bread, okay, if you count from the sheaf, or if you, they're supposed to give a sheaf offering, right? Which if you look up, sheaf is a certain amount of grain or of wheat, okay? And it would be tied together after they did the reaping. So now, if they were gonna do this and it's early March, right? Or mid-March, and the winter hasn't even ended yet, how are they going to have any wheat, or how are they going to have a sheaf for the priests to wave to the Most High?
So the
Okay, the water.
definition,
You want to read that out?
definition of a sheaf is a bundle of grain stalks laid lengthwise and tied together after reaping.
Con. So the wave offering was a sheaf of grain in this context, and it's talking about the wheat, right? And that's why it said the wheat. It basically said the wheat wasn't grown up yet, right? The first fruits. This is what you call the first fruits. It was a sheaf of barley, is actually what it was, which was offered with the Feast of Unleavened Bread, or at the end of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. It was directly following the Passover, right? Then you count after that, the next um the next holy day would be the Pentecost. Why do they call it the Pentecost? Because it would be 7 Sabbaths, which 7 times 7 is 49, and a day, which it's 50, which is where they get the Pentecost from, right? And that's going into, if you measured the year and you had this sheaf offering in the wrong season, in the winter time. So let's actually go, let's count that actually. Let me I'm gonna pull up my calendar real quick. So what day was it? So we're gonna count one more time just to show y'all how if you keep this in the wrong season, okay, let's just go with this coming year since it's coming up. March 2nd, that would be the new year, okay? So we know that the Passover is 14 days after that. Okay, 14 days. So that would be March 16th would be Passover. Then we'll count 7 days for the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which would be what is it, the 23rd?
Con.
Okay, so now March 23rd, you got your calendar up, Ak?
For are you looking at for the year 2022?
Khan.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
Okay, so if it was it was what was the day we just said? March 23rd?
23.
23rd. Okay. So count 7 Sabbaths after that, if you could. So just 7 weeks from that next Sabbath.
Starting with that Sabbath after the 23rd.
Con.
That's May. I think I'm looking at it wrong. May 7th.
Okay, May. So it's in May. So now, what is Go ahead and if you could look up, or I'll look it up on my phone. When summer starts, and I believe it's in June. Let me see.
Summer 2022.
Con. It says June 22nd.
Con.
So that's about a month off, right?
Con.
According to which that's going off of the summer solstice is how they measure, which again, it's the sun, the moon, the stars, right? And it'll keep going back like we saw with the other holy days. It's going to keep going back and keep going back if you don't account for the double Adar, right? So let's go back to, if you can read this one more time.
Genesis chapter 1, verse 14. And God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs, and for seasons, and for days, and for years.
Con. So we have to take into account the seasons, because that, see how that's already a month off um for the summer as well. And that's also when you're supposed to have the first fruits, right? Which, well, we didn't even read that. If you could go get Leviticus 23, let me see, 23 and 20. Staying in Leviticus 23, right? So the last one that the last couple that we read was, this is 23 and 11, and he shall wave the sheaf before Yahweh to be accepted for you on the morrow. After the Sabbath, the priest shall wave it. So that's the Sabbath right after the Feast of Unleavened Bread. So now you would count 7 weeks and 1 day, which is Pentecost. They call it Pentecost, but we know it as first fruits, right? Which will be 7 weeks, and this is what it says.
And the priest shall wave them with a bread of the first fruits for a wave offering before the Lord, with 2 lambs. They shall be holy to the Lord for the priest.
So if you keep going with that understanding of starting early, then also in when it comes to the first fruits, you're going to be early as well. And it's already in the summertime when you get that next harvest. So you would also be early for that harvest. So how would they have the first fruits if they're not even harvesting yet? You get what I'm saying, Ak?
Con.
So that's why it's so important to measure the new year by the season, right? Because if you're off on the first at the beginning of the year, then you're gonna be off for all the rest of it. Like, because like we saw, it's gonna be in May if you're going off of that understanding. And then the Pentecost, you would be early for that as well. When Pentecost doesn't start until later, right? So it has to be kept in their season, right? Because that would still be in the spring, actually. The feast of first fruits would still be in the spring, and the summer is when you reap the harvest, or the which is why it's called first fruits, right? And around here, I could attest to that, because I mean, in the summertime is when they start cutting down everything around here.
Yeah.
We have a lot of farms and things of that nature. So if you were a whole month early, you're not even gonna have any bread to. The wheat isn't even ready. The fruits aren't even ready. You're not gonna have nothing to offer to the Most High. But I mean, it's completely understandable because I never like think about it, right? It took me like 4 years to even think about this. And that's why it's really comes down to like actually I had given you that verse at the beginning, but then I didn't even call it the Isaiah 28 and 9, right?
Con.
To whom shall he teach? If you can go ahead and give me that one up. 28, 9, and 10, Baba Kashaw. All right, now I'm gonna go over a couple quick verses real quick. So this is Psalm 104 and 19. He appointed the moon for seasons, right? So that's why we have to take into account um the moon, right? And then and how it said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years. So like I said already multiple times, the moon, the sun, the equinox for the spring, the solstice for the summer, things of that nature. The constellations that are only seen in certain seasons.
This is Isaiah chapter
Go
28,
ahead.
verse 10. For precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little and there a little. Whom shall he
Salakia.
teach? No, you're
If you
good,
can
you're
go ahead
good.
and read that one first.
Whom shall he teach knowledge? And whom shall he make to understand doctrine? Them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast.
So this isn't the milk, you know what I mean? This is that meat. It's something more, it's something harder to digest, something like more down the line. And it's like it says in Hebrews the 6th chapter, you get that foundation first, which is faith and repentance from dead works, and then you move on to other things. And like I said, it's no sweat if you've been, if you're like just coming to realize this, because hey man, it took me about 4 years to even realize this. You know what I mean? So there's no shame in it, but the only thing is we got to apply as we go. And the Most High, it's like me and the brother Jomar have talked about many times. The Most High has a way of revealing things to you in His own time and when He wants you to get certain things,
Uh,
right? And as we learn, we just start to apply and start to study and look into it more and more. So again, I'm not saying just take what we're giving you and that's it. No, we're giving you this, and now you have to study to show yourself approved. Right? Like it says, 2 Timothy 2 and 15. Take the precepts, start look into the equinox, look into, oh, is there really constellations you only see in certain seasons? Is there really the equinox marks the spring? Have I been keeping the new year before spring? Because it says in all the way in Genesis, one of the first things the Most High says, Genesis 1:14, in their seasons. Leviticus 23 says in their seasons. Leviticus chapter 9, it says in their seasons. So it's obviously important if the Most High keeps repeating it over and over and over, right? And that's another reason why, like the brother had read, we have to go precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little, get some here, some over there. And as you start reading through it, it's like the brother Jomar was telling me as well, and I can attest to the same thing. You can read a whole book. You can read the whole Torah, or you can read the whole Bible, and then you start reading it again, and you're gonna start picking up more and more things that really didn't stand out to you the first time. And
con.
then you could read it again, and you're just gonna keep the Most High is gonna keep revealing things to you over and over and over. None of us could ever understand and obtain and retain the whole Bible, right? That's why we have to meditate in it day and night, right? Um, Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. If you're observing Sabbath, got a question? Okay, yeah, we're about to finish up, and then you can ask. Nehemiah, yeah, the camp I was with didn't really understand it, and they would just talk it away. I learned it when I was no longer with them, when I prayed about it and searched the scriptures for myself. Khan, Khan. Yeah, I've talked to the brother Nehemiah about it as well before, and he was one of the people that helped me with some understanding on it as well. And like I said, we're definitely gonna do a part two of this. We'll get more into like the holy days and stuff like that. But I just wanted to give you all this information so that you can, like I said, study to show yourself approved to it, right? And then the next lesson, we'll take more of like, okay, we'll see what y'all found out about it, right? And we'll go more into the holy days and things of that nature. And if y'all want to tell me, okay, look, I got this day for this because this, and then I'll tell y'all, okay, I got it this day because of this, and we can like kind of compare and contrast, I guess you could say, because I don't want to give too much information right now. I want to give y'all something, and now, like I said, you can look into it yourself, because most people are like, what, double adar, what is that, right? Most people are like how I was for the first couple of years, and they were like, okay, this is my favorite camp, this is my favorite teacher, this is the person I listen to the most, they're keeping the feast day this day, I'm going with that, right? And not to say, not, I'm not trying to like how they say, like, crucify you for it or like talk down on you for it. I think we can all say we've done that to an extent, because this is more of the meat. When you come into it, the first thing you think about is not, okay, let me take chart of all the holy days so I can keep them on the right day. The first thing is like you're building up your faith, you're learning the laws, you're trying to keep them, you're trying to kill the old man, right? You're trying to get the demons off of you that you've had, things like that, and you're just going along kind of with whatever, whoever you're learning from, right?
Salakia,
But like the brother said here, go ahead, Ak.
I was just gonna say, a scripture that helped me out tremendously was Colossians, the one you brought up first, 2:16. I think I even asked you about it
Con,
a long time ago when I first came into the truth and we started talking. Was let no man therefore judge you in meat or drink or in respect of of an holy day or of the new moon or of the Sabbath days. Because when you come into the truth, um, it can be a little bit of much, and we're coming into the truth with, like, this is like a new reality, whereas we already lived a whole
con,
indoctrination of like what this system kind of placed on us, whereas people in the old days, when they were babies, they were keeping the feast days, and they were accustomed to it, and all of that was normal to them. Sure, over time we started losing that, but as long as you're staying in sincerity, and you're doing the work for the Most High sincerely, and you stay in prayer, the Most High will guide you. Because at first, like the brother said, you got to build up their faith. You got to keep the holy days to the best of your ability, but it's really important just to be sincere about what you're doing and why you're doing it. You know what I mean? So I just think that Colossians verse that you brought out at the beginning, you did that strategically too, just because I know how it can be
con,
in conversations with people who are in the truth, and how combative it can get, because it can get pretty combative. It can get pretty difficult to navigate when people are just trying to do it sincerely, so definitely keep that in mind. Also, when you're doing things in sincerity, the Most High will guide those same people to your life to kind of help you navigate, so like the brother said, just always start with the milk, and then start slowly, because this stuff can definitely be a lot to consume, especially when we live busy lives. But yeah, most definitely. I see you brought a couple of scriptures up.
Con. Yeah, I agree with everything you said, and that's a good point to make because at first, when you're moving in sincerity, and it's like it says all throughout the scriptures, the Most High tries your heart. He knows your heart, and the most important thing is to start getting out of those sins, and the ones. It's like it says in Sirach, and I believe in Proverbs too, like to start offending less, and it's easier to okay, I'm gonna put down the weed. Okay, I'm gonna stop going out and partying. Okay, I'm gonna stop fornicating. I'm gonna start doing these things. These are things you can apply immediately. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And like I said, we're all busy to where you need to start chipping away at the tree, so to speak, like cutting the tree down as quickly as possible, right? But as you were talking, a couple verses came to mind. So if you want to go ahead and read them.
John 1:17. For the law was given by Moses, but grace and truth came by Yahweh Shai Hamashiach.
Colin. So like you said, I mean, when you're really trying to do this in sincerity, the Most High knows your heart, and He's going to give you that grace that came with Yahushai. Like if He sees, okay, he's trying to keep the feast days, he's not gonna be, and He knows you're doing it for the right reasons. You're trying to get out of sin. You're trying to get closer to the Most High. You're trying to be set apart. He's not gonna be like, you know what, that's not the right day. Like some brothers are, because I could tell you, brothers, like you said, they can get real combative real quick,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's how why you're supposed to know how you ought to answer every man, like the scriptures say.
2 Timothy 3:15 through 17. And that from a child thou hast known the holy scriptures, which are able to make thee wise unto salvation through faith which is in Hamashiach Yahushai. All scripture is given by inspiration of God and is profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness, that the man of God may be perfect, thoroughly furnished unto all good works.
So a couple points real quick to make. So it says, and that from a child thou hast known the holy scriptures. Like you had said, there's certain people back then that from the beginning it was like that's all they knew. All they knew was the scriptures, right? But then us, of course, through time, through sin, through going into idolatry, all the different means of idolatry and captivity, etc., we weren't blessed with that, but we are blessed to come into the truth at a later time, right? And most high willing, it'll make us wise unto salvation, like it says here. Then verse 16 says, all scripture is given by inspiration of the Most High and is profitable for doctrine, reproof, correction, and instructions in righteousness. So nobody is just going to come into the truth or wake up and find out they're an Israelite and read through the whole Bible and get all the instructions and just live righteous right then and there. It's impossible. Nobody's going to do that. Right? So what do? We take it as what it is. It's profitable for doctrine, doctrine being how to live, things to live, a set of rules to live by. One of the definitions of doctrine for reproof and correction. So as we're reading through it, we're reproving and correcting ourselves and finding things that we need to work on. Right? 2 Corinthians 13:5, examining ourselves daily. And then it says that the man of Yahweh may be perfect. So nobody again is going to come into the truth, pick up the Bible, and automatically be perfect, right? It says thoroughly furnished unto all good works. You're going to start putting in those good works, most high willing, and as you learn, your works should be increasing as well. Like, oh man, I didn't know about this law. Now I got to do that too, right? You have anything you want to add to that? Doc?
Um, yeah, when you said that, oh, now I learned about this law, now I gotta keep that. That's like a building block. But because the Sabbath is normal to you now, like once you start keeping Sabbaths regularly, you
Con,
understand it becomes second nature. Now, on top of the Sabbath, you don't have to think about keeping a Sabbath. It's just something that you're accustomed to. Now you can build on that, because you've
con,
started your faith. Then your faith, you start with your faith, then you build on that, and then you start having those building blocks, and then you develop a lifestyle around it that helps you to have these things be second nature. So I definitely agree on that.
con. That's a good point to make. It's like a building block. It's like, who have you known that comes into the truth and then is like, okay, I'm gonna keep first fruits before saying I'm gonna keep the Sabbath. Right? It's not gonna happen. It's the other way. That's like, I'm gonna run, but you haven't learned to walk yet.
Con.
Right? And that's why the like most people say, okay, the Ten Commandments, which we know there's not only Ten Commandments, but what I've told many people before, and you know what, that's probably got more people to freeze up or to like examine themselves more than any question I ask them. Okay, like they'll be asking about reincarnation, or they'll be asking about something else, something not a salvation issue, right? And I'll be like, okay, do you know the Ten Commandments? Yeah, yeah, kind of know them. Okay, what are they? And then you know what I
Right.
mean? It you
Yeah,
have to
yeah.
you have to go in order.
Con. I feel like
I'm gonna
there's a lot of like, for example, I guess you would say modern day Christianity start with the letters of Paul. Like that's where they start.
con
But Paul, I forget what letter it is, but he says that he's talking to those who know the law.
con
you know so it's just like, how are you even gonna begin to understand what he's talking about if you haven't even read the law?
con. That's a good point. I'm gonna pull that up real quick. It's Romans. Oh man, it's slowing down. If you get it's Romans 7:1.
Yeah, that's the one.
I'm gonna read. So this is Nehemiah posted James 4:6. But he giveth more grace. Wherefore he saith, the Most High resisteth the proud, but he giveth grace unto the humble. Right. That's a beautiful verse, and that's another thing that we got to keep in mind. Like, if like I was telling the brother Jomar, I believe on a couple lives back, the brother Daniel Allah had corrected me on something not too long ago, and I was like, damn, I didn't even think about that. You know what I mean? And I was like, well, Tawada, you know what I mean? Because we're all nobody knows everything. Contrary to what certain camps say, like GMS, we got 144% truth. Nobody knows everything. The scriptures say we prophesy in parts, right? So saying that we know everything or we have all the knowledge is it's a flat out lie, and it's being proud, it's being prideful. Like the brother just said here, the Most High resisteth the proud, but He gives more grace to the humble. So you could be, let's say you're wrong on something, and then the Most High put someone there, put someone in place to correct you, and then you're like, nah, you don't know what you're talking about. But He provided scriptures, and he was actually, there's no way you can disprove it with the scriptures. So you have two choices. You can either be humble, and the Most High is going to be like, okay, I saw that you were being humble, you're moving in humility, I'll give you grace. Or you could be prideful, and then the Most High is going to have to deal with you another way, right?
Khan, this is
You want to read
Hebrews
that out?
chapter 6, verse 1. Therefore, leaving the principles of the doctrine of Christ, let us go unto perfection, not laying again the foundation of repentance from dead works and of faith toward God.
So it's saying leaving the principles of the doctrine, right? The principles is like the ABCs, the foundations, the how did you say it, Doc? The building blocks.
Khan.
On the building blocks of the doctrine of the word, because Hamashiach Yahushua is the word, right? Let us go on unto perfection, not laying again the foundation of repentance from dead works, which that's we gotta. How do we start repenting? By learning the Torah, because what is sin? Sin is the transgression of the law. 1 John 3:4. If you don't know the law, how are you going to start repenting in the first place, right? And then it says, and of faith towards the Most High, which through repentance you're showing your faith, because why would you keep the laws if you didn't have faith in the first place? Right? That would make no sense. So that's what the brother was alluding to, those building blocks and those principles, foundational things.
This is Romans chapter 7, verse 1. Know ye not, brethren, for I speak to them that know the law, how that the law hath dominion over a man as long as he liveth.
So he's speaking to them that know the law. So how could you understand, like the brother said, how could you understand what he's talking about if you don't know the law? That's like if I started talking to you, like if you started talking to me about what do you use? What program do you use for your mixing?
Pro Tools.
Okay, yeah, Pro Tools, right? If you start going into all the attachments or all the different little things you're doing, and I'm not even familiar with Pro Tools in the first place, how am I gonna understand what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
That's the same thing. The brother Nehemiah said, Khan, an alchemist taught a lot of things before they ever get to the six principal teachings, and some never get to the six principal teachings. So what six principal teachings are you talking about, Ak? What do you know that verse, Ak, how it goes where it says where Paul says like they don't know the scriptures and they wrestle unto their destruction or something like that?
Con.
I'm trying to look it up, but it keeps giving me Ephesians 6:12. We wrestle not against flesh and blood. Let's
2
see.
Peter 3:16.
Con. I kept putting Second Timothy 3:16. I was like, nah, no, it's not second.
Okay, gotcha.
If you could pull that up as well.
Con. Hey, Salakia, this is off topic, but do you
Oh,
ever
okay,
find
con.
you ever find yourself outside of looking for scripture, but like you're trying to find like a car part and you put KJV?
Uh, the other day I was looking up seeds. I put like organic seeds, and I put KJV, and I was like, man.
I do that all the time. Con.
Con. It's a good sign. It's a good sign, Ak.
Yeah. This is 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 16. As also in all his epistles, speaking in them of these things, in which are some things hard to be understood, which they that are unlearned and unstable rest, as they do also the other scriptures, unto their own destruction.
So like you were bringing out, if he's speaking to them that know the law, and they jump you right to Paul in the Christian church, right? And Peter's saying that in his epistles, in his letters, he's speaking things that are hard to be understood. And they that are unlearned and unstable rest, or they're wrestling with it. They can't get a grasp on it, as they do also the other scriptures. What other scriptures are they talking about? The so-called New Testament wasn't put together yet at this time. So he's talking about the so-called Old Testament. It says that's what they were wrestling. They were unstable in it. They were unlearned in it, and they're wrestling with the so-called Old Testament, and now they're wrestling with Paul's letters, because it's hard to understand, right? Let me go back up to the sister's comment real quick. To me, it's a bit overwhelming because I want to make sure I'm getting the days right. You're right. I had a friend who tried to tell me when the Feast of Tabernacles and Atonement was, and I told him I would study the Bible and not trust the camp, and he kept questioning me why I don't follow that camp. Um, and not listen to them, but I want him to understand I'd rather believe the book than a camp. So being a sis, I'm assuming that you're not married, sis. Is that correct to assume? If you're talking to a brother about something, because what I would say is, um, well, I'll wait to see if you're married or not. Because if you're not married, then to be honest, I would see if that brother can break it down to you and see his understanding, right? No, I'm single. Okay, so if you're single, why if you felt comfortable, why not challenge the brother, not challenge the brother, but give the brother a chance to break it down with the scriptures and see if he can prove those days. You know what I'm saying? Ask him to show you with Bible verses, with proving when the new year starts, etc., etc. Right? The brother Nehemiah Khan. I just saw your other comment up there. I never really counted them out, so I didn't. When you said the six principal teachings, I was like, so repentance from dead works, faith towards the Most High, doctrine of baptisms, laying on of hands, resurrection of the dead, and eternal judgment. Khan. And Most High willing, real soon I'm gonna have the brother Hawayala and Azariah on here to do the eternal judgment. They've been wanting to do that, and Most High willing, we'll do that soon. Hopefully, my internet right now, everybody's off, man. I had to get everyone off the internet, Doc, and all praise to Most High was actually it didn't cut off as much as it normally does, huh?
Yeah, no, it went good.
Con. So the sister said he never gave scriptures. So yeah, just ask him for scripture. If you're comfortable with it, I'm not trying to force you to try and talk to him or something like that. But if it's somebody like you said, someone you came into the truth with at the same time, like you never know. Maybe he's gonna give you scriptures, or maybe you're gonna challenge him, and then he's gonna figure out that he can't prove it with the scriptures. You know what I mean? And just use some of these. You can even question him. Use some of these verses, like Genesis 1:14. Right? Is he using the lights to measure the seasons and the years? Is it in the right season? Leviticus 23, right? And so on and so forth. So who was the brother? Was it Kingdom Minded that had a question? You want to ask real quick, Art? If not, I'm gonna go and try and find something to watch with my rib. Man, we had a long week. I know you did too, huh?
Oh yeah, most definitely, man. By Wednesday, I was like, man, this Sabbath need to need to get here quicker.
Con,
But,
for real.
but it's all good. Ecclesiastes 3, right?
Con. And what does that say? There's a season for everything. Again, going along with the seasons,
All praises. Yeah.
right? Con. And the sister said, "You are right, brother. All praise to the Most High." Yeah, because you like this is one thing that I learned a while back when I was first coming into the truth, and maybe you can attest to it too, Ak. When you're first coming into the truth, sometimes you don't want to question people because you don't want to like you had said earlier, you don't want it to get like real contentious or nothing. But I found that sometimes when you think it's gonna be contentious, it's actually like a teaching or a learning moment, either for you or for them or for both of you. You know what I mean?
John.
All because you just ask a question. But Khan, I guess the brother's not on here no more. So I guess we'll go ahead and end it. You want to go ahead and close it out? Ak?
Con, most definitely. The water for everybody that joined in to watch it. Don't be overwhelmed. Keep in mind the first scripture that we posted up. I'll read it again. Colossians chapter 2, verse 16. Let no man therefore judge you in meat or in drink or in respect of an holy day or of the new moon or of the Sabbath days, which are a shadow of things to come, but the body is of Christ. So just keeping that in mind, approach all things with sincerity, stay in prayer, and always praising the Most High, regardless. It's a beautiful thing to be able to be joining the brother here and for allowing me a part on his platform, and for everybody that joined us. It's always really nice to be able to build, and hopefully you guys learn as much as I do when I'm on here, because this is a learning opportunity for everybody. As long as we're doing things decently and in order, it's always a really amazing thing. So Shabbat Shalom to everybody who's observing the Sabbath today. If not, Shabbat. uh See, a brother posted, oh, I thought that was Kingdom Minded. So take it away by saying all praises to the Most High, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai HaMashiach. So Shabbat Shalom to those observing. Shalom Ak.
Okay, Shalom. I'm gonna go ahead and finish with scripture real quick, just to piggyback off what you said. So Sirach 37:15, it says, "And above all this, pray to the Most High that He will direct thy way in truth." Right. So that's the number one thing for any of us to pray for, that He'll direct our way in truth. Right. So as the brother said, all praise to the Most High, and y'all have a peaceful Shabbat.
Shalom.
Shalom.